Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome. I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And thank you so much for joining us. This is Why Does This Exist? A podcast about the very weirdest in pop culture. Anything from weird toys and strange products and devices to video games, movies, and TV shows. Thanks again for coming in and hanging out with us on our last couple of episodes. This is our third episode right now. No, is this episode 3 or 4? I don't even know anymore.
This is episode
4.
4. Yeah.
Wow. Time does fly. That's actually really cool. I didn't think we'd be doing it this long. I thought we'd be getting kicked off the air right now. But
I'm surprised we weren't canceled.
Well, I mean, we're not in the Gina Carano camp yet.
Yeah.
Ugh, I feel bad for that, but I don't really know what to say except I think by now celebrities should honestly have learned that or at least people in general, whatever your beliefs are politically or or religiously or anything of that nature, you got to keep your opinions to yourself when it comes to social media.
Yeah, definitely. It's just it's not because of necessarily anybody's opinion is worse than anybody else's. It's just the fact that things are so politically polarized right now. If you say anything wrong, you will lose your job, your house, your life in 3 seconds because people are just out for blood on Twitter and Facebook.
And the thing that kills me is a lot of most of these people who are out for blood, as you said, they never did and never have any plans to do anything meaningful in their lives. So this is where they get their kicks.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, boycotting or saying, "Oh, I hate this show because of this person," or "I hate that," or "I hate this product," "I hate this company," or whatever it is. They never bought anything. They never your revenue is not as a company, your revenue is not coming from these people. So why you need to listen to them, I don't understand. I guess because it looks like there's a heavy backlash, but it's a lot of people on a bandwagon, and I think companies need to be I think companies need to be smarter. They need to have thicker skin when it comes to this. I understand that it's you're thinking, oh no, it's damage control, but if you pay attention to how the outrage mob, or as my old coworker from Sam Ash used to say, I won't say his name, but he was the angry guy in the stock room.
Oh yeah. You've told me about him.
He would. Oh yes, he's a very interesting human being, and I love him. Mm-hmm. He would call them the Crybaby Mafia, which very appropriate. The thing that you have to understand is they are very fickle, and they move on very quickly from one target to another. So all you really have to do is just lay low and just wait maybe 2 weeks, and then somebody else will be in trouble for something they did, or sometimes even 2 hours.
Yeah.
You got to just wait it. It's a short game. You just got to wait it out with these people and then just not cave. If the program is still honestly, I don't I think she made I think she made a lot of stupid mistakes in these tweets.
Yeah.
Do I think that she's a horrible person? Absolutely not. I
No.
think she's a very nice person, and she means well, and she believes whatever she believes. I don't think she's a monster. I don't think she's terrible or anything like that. She's clearly a star if you see her work. Like, you gravitate towards
Yeah.
her. The camera loves her, and like she is clearly a star. She's going to. I think she'll recover from this, but I think she's got to lay low for a little while. And
Yeah.
maybe she should issue some kind of an apology, but at the same time,
Yeah. I
maybe
mean,
not.
Twitter's.
I don't know. It'll go away
I
eventually.
mean, the problem is you're going to issue an apology to people who don't want your apology. They want
Right?
your
They
head
just
on
want, yeah,
chopping block.
yeah.
You know,
That's really the
so
problem.
it's
Well, that's
the
why I
best
said
thing
I don't know if
is
she
just to
should
lay low.
apologize. She should just
Yeah,
go into hiding because even if she
it's
says
honestly
I'm
the best thing.
sorry, even if she says I'm sorry, there's going to be, the same 100,000 crazies that are going to end up saying, "Oh, it's a fake apology. Oh, I don't want this. Oh, it's not
Oh, she
real.
doesn't
Oh, we
deserve
hate her."
forgiveness because of our perceived notions of
Yeah,
what's
and I
right
mean,
and wrong.
who are you to say that? Like,
Yeah.
you you've never made a mistake. You've never said anything stupid on social media. Like, as long as social media has been around, or as long as you've had social media, let's just say you're our age, you're 30 years old, and you had social media back from the days of like MySpace or Zynga or Meet Spot. Now I'm really dating myself. Like, if somebody, you mean to tell me that if I scrubbed every that if I like went through every social media account or every or anything that you did when you were in high school, that you wouldn't have said anything stupid? I'm sure you would have, and I'm sure
Yep.
it's something that you don't condone now, but at the time, you were a dumb kid and you said something dumb. As,
I mean, there's a pretty clear bias in social media also when
yes.
certain people can say certain things and get away with it and certain other people can't. It's there's very much a left leaning bias, and if you deny that, then you're just an idiot. You're just being stupid because it's very clearly biased in
Yeah, so,
favor of. There's people on the left who have said pretty horrible things and are still have their jobs and are still working. Worse things than what she said.
right.
Uh, so it's
But but back to what I was saying. Do I think she's a bad person? No. Do I think she made a dumb mistake? Do I think she made several mistakes? Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
but like honestly, the lesson learned for like any celebrity or person really is just keep your opinions on certain things to yourself.
Honestly, it's probably
Honestly,
just smart to just stay off of social media in general because
yeah,
it's just a horrible, horrible thing.
that's probably the secret lesson is just
Yeah.
do not ever just ignore social media and don't bother going on it.
I
Because
remember.
something terrible. I remember when social media was great and people did good things
Yes.
during the earlier days.
Yeah.
And then
I
I
always
don't know
thought of it as
what
like
happened, but it became a cesspool of like angry people.
the algorithm happened. It became like, oh, how can we sell more ads to more people and target people in a specific way? And they found that political polarization is the best way to sell ads. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's big money in making people pissed off. So
Well, has
that's
been
what
for some
social media-
time. Controversy creates cash, Eric Bischoff. I've
Exactly.
never read the book, but he says that all the time, and it's true.
Well, there you go. Social media is that exactly.
Oh yeah. There's two documentaries that can appeal to that. That can and the first one is oh god, what is it called? Well, now I look like a jackass. Crap. Not like
Well, I know there's the social dilemma.
yeah, that's the other
Okay.
one is the social dilemma, but the other one is like something. It has to do with how the 2016 election ended up like going the way that it did, and that's
Yeah.
that's where like the main that's where like the level of the political polarization that we have today basically started, where like the election campaigns. Oh, the Great Hack. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah, okay. I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's really crazy how this like data company that now no longer exists because they did a bunch of illegal crap, and like the woman who like went to the feds and like told all is like, her thing now is, oh, I'm changed, and I saw the evil that we were doing, but I mean honestly, she probably like, you took the money, you took the immunity.
Exactly. Of
Now you
course.
you can tell, you can say whatever you want to say right now, but you didn't have a problem taking their checks until somebody
Right.
told you that it was illegal.
Yeah.
Once the cops showed up, you complied, and now this is your story, and you're sticking to it. And I get that. You can go right ahead and be Henry Hill. Nothing wrong with that. You sell out, you sell out. But I mean, you got like it's a Wu Tang thing. You got to protect your neck, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Great Hack is about just how this company manipulated everything for like
Hmm.
various political parties in various countries to sway elections in one way or another, and they were doing it on
Hmm.
social, and they did it based on social media, and they just took
Yeah.
social media and they like manipulated the algorithm so that way people could come in and they could see what would, not what they want to see, they would see the opposite of what they want to see, so then all the
Hmm.
misinformation would get spread and all this other crazy stuff, and that's why we have this giant mistrust in everything now that we do, and everything is
Hmm.
so divided, and now we can't stop it. And the other one is the social dilemma, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The social dilemma is crazy. It's all like the big tech company guys. It's not their CEOs, it's people who help design the algorithms,
Hmm.
and and they talk about how great it was, how like people were getting connected with their families, or just just people that they met on vacation like years ago, or people they hadn't talked to, and like they were helping causes, or they were doing all these great things and supporting each other, and there was a great sense of community. And then something happened and it just became evil, and
Hmm.
these guys are all sitting there, and they don't work for the big companies like Twitter or Facebook anymore. They did at the time, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this was a great idea. We were high fiving each other. It was so awesome." And then something happened. It became this evil, evil, dark thing of like angry people and political and controversial divide everywhere you look, and just this toxic place. And we made this monster, and we don't know how to stop it.
Hmm.
So I think at some point regulation is going to come, and like these companies are going to get broken up, but
Yeah.
it's going to be
mean,
a
I think
long
the anti.
time, and there's so much money involved that who knows how long
Yeah.
it's going to like take for anything to happen. And by then, I think too much damage is going to be done.
Yeah. It's. I used to think of social media like years ago as like the modern version of the Greek agora. The place where everybody can meet and exchange ideas freely and talk and all that.
Well, I
And
think that was the
it was great. Like
concept.
great for political discourse because you get all these different ideas. The problem is that they changed the algorithm so that it became an echo chamber for people, which radicalizes people more because now all they're hearing is what they want to hear. All they hear is them affirming their own political beliefs instead of being challenged. And now the tech companies, because they're most of them are left leaning, as much of Silicon Valley is, you have a huge like diaspora of people that are like extremely polarized because all they hear is what they're being told to hear basically by the algorithm, and what they want to hear. And instead of challenging each other's political beliefs and having honest and open debates, it's now degenerated into like everything I say is right and everything you say is wrong. And and I have like an army of people behind me that will back me up and cancel you if you go against that, kind of thing. So it's like it's kind of degenerated into like a horrible, horrible thing that's kind of ruining democracy, I think, in a lot of ways, because now all of a sudden we're not having honest debates about things, like
It's such nonsense because
we're
like
just
you're
using it like
afraid,
right.
like people are afraid of what they're going to say because they don't want their friends to like not want to
Mm-hmm.
be their friends anymore. So like,
Or worse, like
or
go
worse.
after them at their livelihood. People are losing their jobs because they said something that someone doesn't agree with or something stupid that was like that they don't even believe, that they just said years ago and don't even believe it anymore. But you know what, it's saved on the interwebs, so it's going to be there forever, and someone will dig it up and then
Yeah,
use it as a
and
cudgel to beat you into submission.
yeah, and they'll do even if it's a harmless thing. Like if somebody says, "I think, uh, I'm not," I like dogs, but I don't like puppies. Somebody can somebody will do ridiculous mental gymnastics if they don't like you enough. And, like, the next thing you know, you're getting fired because you murder puppies, which you've never done and you never planned on doing, and you're not a puppy murderer. You just don't like puppies, but you like dogs. But something you said 20 years ago on Facebook or whatever it is, all of a sudden this is a huge HR problem. Where is it really? Like, are there other issues that the company is having that impacts the bottom line directly instead of, like, that drone in Sector 7G?
I think a big of the problem, a lot of it too, is that a lot of nuance is lost in social media because it's all text. You're not speaking, so you don't hear the nuance in someone's speech patterns. Like sarcasm is lost, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So people just take whatever they see at face value, and that's it, and they can't read into the text. And also, you're somewhat anonymous when you're behind a mouse and keyboard. So people are more willing to say terrible, horrible things that they wouldn't say to your face because they would get slapped in the face,
Right.
And that's another big problem.
Yeah. I mean, but, like, I'll wrap this up because I don't think anybody wants to hear us have a discussion on this forever. I'm sure there's some people that do. If you want to have, if you want to hear us,
social media episode, if you want us to,
if you want us to have a discussion on social media as an entire episode or even a private live stream, wouldn't that be a concept? Let us know by by liking, subscribing, and leaving us a comment on YouTube, or sending an email to us, nasty or not nasty, preferably not nasty, at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. And you can also donate some money to our Patreon so that we can create an unlisted video where you, yes, you and your friends, but only your close friends who have also donated to our Patreon, will be able to listen to us ramble in the comfort of your own home and nobody else's. At patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. We have multiple tiers. It's a lot of fun. You're going to go banana. You're going to love it. Okay, take the picture. That was my experience meeting Pat Patterson. It was me and my buddy who goes by the nickname the Fridge because he carried my parents' refrigerator all the way up the steps of our old house by himself. Not because we asked him to, he just did it. While my dad and I were discussing what kind of pizza to order, he ends up taking the refrigerator, and he moved, and, like, we hear, like, shuffling up the steps and a couple of grunts, and we turn around, and the next thing you know, he's up there at the top of the steps with like a full refrigerator, and he's like, "All right, well, where do you want this?" We went to when WrestleMania was over here in New York, New Jersey, when it was like the first once. I think when it was the twice in a lifetime with The Rock and Cena.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was that one. We had tickets to one of the Access days that they were doing, so we went and we met Dusty Rhodes, who was a wonderful guy, very nice. He let me do an impression of him, and I didn't do the damn. I didn't do the Hard Times one like everybody else would. Instead, I forget which one I did. I think I just said something off the top of my head. I don't remember, baby. I did too many Dusty Rhodes impressions over my life. I don't remember. But then I told, now I'm like blending in.
You're stuck in Dusty Rhodes.
I'm stuck in Dusty Rhodes, baby. I'm stuck in quicksand. I am in a monsoon. I don't know what to do. Help me, please, help me, please. And then we talked a little bit about Dustin's book, or Goldust's book, Out of the Shadows, which is an interesting book. He takes a lot of shots at himself. And I like when he talks about matches in it, but, like, there's bits of it where, like, he kind of rambles about things, but it's not a bad book if you could pick it up. It's called Out of the Shadows by Dustin Rhodes, or Dustin Runnels. I forget which last name he uses, but it's cool. But meeting Patterson, he was like, I thought it was so funny because he like, I shook his hand, like I did everybody else. He was, and Patterson ends up, and I said, "Hey man, it's nice to meet you. It's an honor. I appreciate everything that you did for this business." And he's like, "Okay, how many guys are we got? One guy, two guy, three guy. Okay, get here. All right, everybody. Okay, take the picture." And that was it. That was all that he. And I was like, "What the?" It's like a thank you would have been nice.
Yeah.
But he like signed the thing, and then like I turn around and like there's and he pulls out a giant glob of like one of the like a truckosaurus sized thing of freaking hand sanitizer, and he's like hammering the freaking nozzle, and he's got like this giant like glob that like, and he's just like rubbing it around his hands, and like it's like overflowing in his hands.
Oh my
And I'm like, what the? I don't like. I was like, I'm hygienic. I wash. I bathe. I mean, to be fair, a lot of wrestling fans, their hygiene is very questionable, similar to trading card game players. They're, but I just remember like just looking back, and I was like, what the? I didn't like. What a douche.
Yeah. He could be like a neat freak or a germaphobe or something.
Well, yeah, but I thought about it, and I was like, how could a guy in the wrestling business who was a pro wrestler for like how many years, like, turn out to be such a germaphobe?
That's true. Getting thrown on that mat with friggin' ringworm and
MRSA and blood and all that, and sweat and
Yeah.
other stuff. Like, I just don't get it. And all of the, like, what do you call it? Like, all the staph infections, especially from like the 70s and like 60s when he was wrestling in his prime. Like, how do you become? I don't understand how you become a germaphobe, but I guess that's what The Office does.
Maybe he became a germaphobe directly because of his wrestling career.
I guess. I mean, or maybe he was in The Office too long. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met those two, and I met DDP. DDP was also kind of cool, and he wasn't yet plugging the crap out of DDP yoga.
Yeah, well, that's his whole like life now is DDPY.
Yeah, and now he's trying to distance the word yoga, which was like the only thing that really like made it interesting. Because now it just sounds like another workout. I don't know. I mean, if any of you want to pay attention, want to see what he's doing, just listen to any of DDP's cameo appearances. It is the exact same spiel. Hi, I'm DDP of DDP. I'm Diamond Dallas Page, master of the Diamond Cutter, and founder of DDP. Why? Because I want everyone to stop calling it yoga. And then he like goes into something else, which is like a 10 to 20 minute diatribe about yoga and about 30 seconds plugging the person and what a nice significant other or person who purchased the cameo for them was.
I think it's a lot of it too comes from like he's trying to like market it more towards like men, and I think a lot of like old school dudes like think yoga that's for women, so that's why he's calling it DDPY now.
Well,
because he's trying to market it more as like a manly thing, quote unquote, to do.
Well, I mean, he's always been doing it. He's always been trying to market it that way. Like for years, it was DDP yoga, and then and like over like the last year or so, it's become DDPY. But like it was DDP yoga forever, and like the logo was and like the slogan was like yoga for regular guys or something like that.
Right.
And now suddenly it's just suddenly it's no longer cool to put yoga, and I don't know. He does what he does, and that's fine. And I actually have the DDP yoga tapes. They're really great, but like my only thing is like sometimes you get tired of hearing DDP's voice, so you have to mute it.
Yeah.
But
don't they have
they're really
like Stevie
good.
Richards, one of the instructors, I think now too.
Yeah, he's on some of the tapes. He has an app too where they have the archive of everything too, so you don't just have to like order the tapes.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty good program actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been actually thinking about getting into it.
Yeah,
so I want to do some exercising, and everyone keeps saying how good yoga is for you and like your body in general. So I've always wanted to try it.
Yeah,
So
it does something to your brain. Like
yeah.
it wires you differently. It kind of motivates you, and like it helps you
Hmm.
reflect. It helps you like see the world a little bit better, especially
Hmm.
during these bleak times. Actually, meditation is great.
Yeah.
I don't do it as often as I should, but I try to meditate every few weeks, every once in a while. I try to meditate at least
Yeah.
for like 10 to 20 minutes.
Hmm.
It's really awesome. Sometimes before we go to sleep, we put on like a meditation podcast, and that really puts you in a great mindset. It really relaxes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we haven't even talked about what we were going to talk about today.
No.
So we're going to get
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite. That's what this episode is about. Before we ramble into other things, it's about a strange little movie. I guess maybe I'm trying to get around it because I'm not particularly crazy about this. I've never seen or understood what the fascination is with it, or
Hmm.
why it became like a sleeper cult mega hit. But
I kind of have a theory about
people
that.
seem to love this thing, and I'm not really
Yeah.
sure why.
I'm one of those people. I love this movie. I think it's hilarious. It might be because the first time I ever saw it, I was actually in science class of freshman year of high school. We were like, it was like just like a day where we weren't doing anything. It was like towards the end of the year, so we were having like just like a movie day, and so like I had like a younger teacher, and she like brought in Napoleon Dynamite as like a joke, I guess, and we watched it, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. Um,
Well, everybody that I
and so
know
it's
has
been
told me that has either told me like I think it's stupid or I think it's hilarious. I haven't really
yeah.
found anybody that said it's okay.
Yeah, I think so my theory of why it became so popular and kind of like a cultural thing is that it was almost like our generation's Clerks. So like, Clerks came out in the early 90s, and it was more of like, comedy for like Gen X, that was when Gen X were like kind of like in their 20s, and like some of the younger Gen X might have been in their late teens, and so that was like kind of like their life, like And I think Napoleon Dynamite was really kind of our generation, like millennials, like that was like our like high school experience was that. And I think that's why it kind of appeals to so many people in our generation because it's almost like our Clerks, Napoleon Dynamite. Maybe not as successful because obviously Kevin Smith kind of like launched Clerks into a whole the View Askew universe. So he's got so many movies now, and Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob, everything. But definitely like similar, like where it's this kind of, almost like artsy, low budget independent film that has like very dry comedy in it. And it's just like kind of like these weird, silly situations with these kind of like dorky characters that are, like supposed to be like average. Like they're not like good looking. They're not like very like sociable. They're just like these average like kids, basically.
Right, they're like a band of misfits in high school,
Yeah.
or as one of my good high school friends is now telling me that we should make a T-shirt of a ragtag group of rogues.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. It's got this charm to it that like it's just I don't know. For me, it's hilarious. Just the jokes where he's like, when he goes to feed his llama, his pet llama, and he's like, like it's just so he's so abrasive. Like I think that's and so aloof. Like and so not the like norm
Does
of
he
like
open his eyes anytime he speaks?
no, he pretty much always has his eyes closed when he's talking, which, again, is just adding to like his character as like this like nerdy, like socially awkward kid.
Yeah, and I mean it also shows that he's not. It's also like helps you understand that he's not very confident.
No, not at all. But it's weird because he has this like weird confidence where like he'll like tell these stories like about like how he was like in Alaska,
Well, he'll make
like
things
at
up.
his house. Yeah, he would just make things up, but
Or like his girlfriend in Oklahoma or something like that. And it's like you'd never been to Oklahoma, probably.
but he like just says these stories he makes up with such confidence, like the fact that he like he was shooting wolverines because they were trying to eat his cousins in Alaska, like with a
Right.
shotgun.
He's like
You know,
he's got a lot of conviction behind it, and I think I think that's like part of it is that sometimes yeah, it's really ridiculous and it's absurd, and
hmm
but like part of you is kind of like, well, I wonder if he might be telling the truth because
yeah,
his family's very bizarre, and and like his grandma's just like crazy, so it's possible.
yeah,
I mean, she ends up getting hurt like doing like sand dune like racing or something.
yeah. She's I think riding like a quad or something on the sand dunes and like
Yeah,
does this crazy ass jump and like freaking falls.
yeah.
Uh, and then you have like Uncle Rico who's like living in like a van down
Down
by
by
the
the
river.
river.
No. And like is like stuck in the past thinking like he's was a high school football star and he's like stuck in the past with that, like he
Yeah,
can't get over the fact.
he has like an Al Bundy complex.
Yeah, yeah, very much, except like even like worse because he doesn't even have a family, or like I'm pretty sure his wife left him and stuff, and he's just sitting in like a van
Yeah,
like no in the middle of nowhere.
he still wears a ring too. So like
Yeah,
that's like a thing that I noticed is like he never talks about a wife or anything. So like I'm guessing that he like went through a bad divorce too, and he like blames everything on like
well he does mention
he
at one
blames
point
everything bad that happens to him on his like shortcomings in football, and he
yeah.
blames the coach, and not necessarily that we find out that he's just not a very good athlete.
Yeah, and there's one point where he is talking to Kip, and he says that like his wife or girlfriend or whatever had like dumped him, or he dumped. He says I think he dumped her or something, but like it was like implied that like she left him because
Yeah,
I guess he's stuck in the past.
yeah, and he's always scheming to like sell some like stupid product, some like crappy
Yeah,
product or something, like like he's got Kip like slinging they're slinging like the plastic Tupperware that like
yeah,
is very cheaply made and like isn't really that good, and it just does, and like he tries to make the other person rip it apart, which yes, human hands can't really break it, but then
right.
like Kip tries to like run it over with the car and it explodes
It just
immediately.
explodes, and he's like, "Darn it!" and he just drives away.
Yeah, like there's quirks that there's quirks to it where I can understand why someone would find it funny, and there are some parts where I popped, but for the most part I still just don't understand how this thing became such a big success. Like, and I mean, like, this was a huge success.
It was a hit.
It
Like
was shot for 400 grand, right? This was a
mhm.
very low budget movie. John Heater was actually paid $1,000 to star in the film,
Yeah,
and like he obviously negotiated to get more money after it became a hit,
yeah,
but it was like it debuted at the Sundance Film Festival, and then it like exploded, and apparently a lot of the situations are like loosely based on the life of the director Jared Hess, but the
hmm
movie, this little $400,000 movie, I'd say little $400,000 movie, like I have that kind of dough laying in the bank. In fact,
yeah.
maybe I do.
Well, I
Um,
mean, to be
but
fair, four
this
hundred thousand
movie,
dollars is very little amount of money for
when
a
it comes to a
to be
movie,
made.
yes.
Yeah,
When it comes to a normal person, that would be very nice.
yeah,
Um, but the movie ends up making like worldwide 46 million point
hmm
like 46.1 million. That's crazy.
yes,
That's like a several thousand times over return.
and I think that
And
I
MTV, it was like they had partnered up with MTV Films and Paramount
mhm.
for it, but it got acquired by Fox Searchlight. But I think MTV, like that was the thing that was the logo on there, like
Yeah,
that I had to do a double take. I was like, wait a minute, what does the MTV have to do with this?
yeah,
So I guess maybe that helped push it, and I'm sure the promotion helped push it. But I mean, I remember the commercials for it loosely, that it was just the scene at the end when he's dancing, and that was
Mm-hmm.
it. And I think that was after it was #1 in the country, because I don't think there was any real initial promotion,
No,
except for
and
maybe on like MTV.
it's funny that like it's became like a cultural icon almost, the dancing thing, because even like they included it as like a dance for the male blood elves in World of Warcraft do
Wait,
the
what?
Napoleon Dynamite dance. Yes, they do the Napoleon Dynamite dance.
That's
So it's
funny.
like, which I mean, all the dances in World of Warcraft are kind of like based on like cultural things. Like the undead males do like the typical like metalhead like mosh dance and like like
Okay.
headbang and stuff. And uh, I think the male orcs do like the MC Hammer dance, like the crab dance and all
Oh,
that.
that's
So
funny. I don't play Warcraft, and I've always wanted to, and I've never gotten into it because I'm afraid that I'm gonna
yes,
lose my all of
no,
my
yeah, you're
social life and all of my life and dedicate it solely to like Blizzard Entertainment. And
you
I,
will absolutely.
because everybody
That's
that I
it.
know that has done that has played Warcraft has always they disappear.
Yes,
They get
no,
addicted and they
you will.
disappear. I used to be in a one of the bands that I used to be in. We had this one dude who was in the band named Alex,
Hmm.
and like we would do the rehearsals at the guitar player Mark's house.
Hmm.
So like there was no overhead. So like if we went to a studio, then then everybody would be timely and everything and like do what they had to do and get it out of the
Hmm.
way. But if we were at Mark's house, there would be some weeks where like Alex just wouldn't show, or
Oh my
like and
god.
and we would just be like, okay, so do we want to give him another like 20 minutes, or like
Hmm.
do you want to call him? And then and then a little bit later we'd see Mark come into the house, and he'd be in kind of a puff, and he'd just be like, all right, let's just run through this set. Is Alex coming? No, he's playing friggin' Warcraft.
Oh my god.
And then like on the
It's
last, and then like there would be some days where like Alex would like let us know, and he would say, "Guys, I have a raid next Sunday at like in the middle of the day. I
yeah.
can't I can't come to practice."
That it's crazy. Like it's become so many celebrities play. I mean, like you have obviously Corpse Grinder,
Yeah,
famous for playing, but like
yeah, he's the singer from
Henry
Cannibal
Cavill.
Corpse. For those who don't know, really,
Yeah,
Henry Cavill plays.
Henry Cavill actually almost missed his audition for Superman because he was raiding with his guild in
Wait,
World of Warcraft.
what?
Yes.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So
You
it's
could you
really
imagine how pissed off his agent would have been if he was like, I couldn't. I'm sorry, dude. What the frick happened? It's Superman. Yeah,
yeah.
I sorry. I had a raid. You understand. You know how quick his agent would have dropped him for that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Jesus, Jesus, that guy dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, he became faster than a speeding bullet. One would say,
Yeah.
but holy crap, that's bad.
It's pretty hilarious. Um,
Ooh, it sounds like he needs better help, but we don't have any sponsors yet, so I'm not plugging their product. If you think we need better help, which you know we do, feel free to tell the folks at BetterHelp that there's a great new podcast called Why Does This Exist? And please kindly send them our way so that way we can have some sponsors who can also help us pay the bills. Not just
yeah.
you by going to our Patreon and donating. That would be at patreon.com/Why Does This Exist? We appreciate it. But back to Napoleon Dynamite. I'm getting good at this.
Yeah.
But yeah, Napoleon Dynamite. It was rated number 14 on Bravo's 100 funniest movies. I'm just reading the Wikipedia here. I don't care, or I don't know, and I also didn't know that. But the movie is like it's taken on a life of its own. I remember I didn't know what it was for the longest time. I think I didn't see it until like 2012 or
Oh
something like
wow.
that. I didn't see it for a long time,
Yeah.
and I just remember I was like watching it. I think my old next door neighbor Fred showed it to me. Because like he watched it, he thought it was funny, and I was like, "This is like." I went over to his house to watch it, and I was like, "This is stupid." And he was like, "Isn't it funny?" And like I didn't understand it. I like the only
Yeah.
thing that I liked was the dance scene because it was just goofy. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't see the point in it. And like, but I remember going into Hot Topic and seeing the Vote for Pedro certs, and
Hmm.
I thought Vote for Pedro was like a pop punk band, which it sounds like a pop punk band.
It probably was a pop punk band at some point, I'm sure.
I'm sure somebody tried it, like a pop punk band or like a ska
Yeah.
band or something. I'm
Yeah.
sure they tried to be both. I'm sure they tried to use the name Vote for Pedro.
Yeah.
But like, there's like, I having watched it again. Like, I ended up watching it yesterday. I don't dislike it as much as I used to.
Hmm.
Like I said, I popped for a couple of things, and I could understand why people find it funny, but like, I still don't see why it made all this money or why it's become such a big hit.
Yeah. I think it was like one of those things where I don't even think the director like thought it was gonna like blow up like it did. I think he figured, oh, okay, you know, I'll probably get some notoriety from like Sundance and some independent film festivals and get maybe like a limited run in theaters, and then like it became like this like huge box office smash like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I guess it was just the right time for it. It was
I mean,
post 9/11.
it won a bunch of awards too, but yes, post 9/11.
Like people, it was like a weird time for comedy. Like people were like kind of like, what, where do we go? Like 9/11 kind of like fundamentally changed our culture a lot. And like I think we were still kind of like in it was only a few years later, we're still kind of reeling. We don't know what like direction the culture's in. Plus it's the turn of a new century, the turn of a new decade. Things always change. Like right in the middle of the decade is when we start getting into like the aesthetic of that decade. So that was like really when the 2000s started to become more like the primary, you know, cultural kind of like influence was like right there in the middle the 2000s. Um, and I guess, like I said, it was our generation's Clerks almost. It was the perfect time because like millennials were all in high school, so we like could relate to the characters because we're all in high school basically,
Mm-hmm. All with
and
our
we're
individual ragtag
the
groups
older
of boys.
millennials were in their younger 20s, and the youngest millennials were like just starting to get into like high school and maybe in middle school still.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like more relatable to our generation, and it was just millennials are technically one of the larger generations, so it just worked because we were like a huge generation, and it appealed to us. I think it really, you had to see it when it came out to like really appreciate it for what it was. What you're watching it years later, I think it's harder to kind of appreciate the humor because again, that was like the early 2000s, like, so I could see why watching it in 2012 you didn't like it, because it's like the humor was, you don't relate to the humor as much because it was you're 8 years or whatever out of high school, or however many years out of high school at that point, so it's like, well, it's kind of silly.
Yeah, it's that could be why. I mean, also, I don't know if myself at the time would have even liked it because everything that I watched or
Mm-hmm.
that I listened to, it was all like I was into a lot of stuff that was a lot older than I was. So like, and
Mm-hmm.
anything that was current at the time, a lot of it I just did not like in general.
Yeah,
So, like, I
so then
think
that could be a lot of it too then.
like in 2004, 2005, like I was trying to watch every Monty Python thing that ever came out.
Yeah.
I only like I was very close minded. I only listened to like 80s thrash metal and 90s death metal. I wouldn't give
Mm-hmm.
anything else a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I like I hated everything that wasn't metal specifically because it wasn't metal. Here I am now,
Yeah.
years later, and I love gangster rap just as much as I love metal, but I also love smooth jazz and I also love blues.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while, I don't mind putting on some bluegrass or
Mm-hmm.
and I have a guilty pleasure for pop every once in a while too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like everything is just kind of I'm a very different person now than I was then.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I can understand it a little bit better now. But at the time,
Yeah.
and even when I first watched it, I really like that mindset just wasn't really there. I wasn't as open, and I didn't really understand why people would like it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I think you kind of had to like be there, quote unquote. You know, like you really had to like. It was more kind of like in the moment, kind of like when you saw it when it first came out. It was like okay, like, and then now going back, obviously, like I watch it for like nostalgic purposes, obviously, because that was like I liked it back when I first saw it when I was 14. So I'll watch it again and still laugh at it today because I liked it then.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
when I watched it yesterday, like at first, I still thought that it was pretty stupid for about the
mhm.
first. I would say about the first act. I really like. I thought about just changing the channel or like not or like just watching it, like tomorrow and just kind of delaying it, just like putting on something else.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
but like as I got further into the second act, it started to grow on me a little more, and I started to really like understand why people tend to like it.
Yeah.
So I will say that the movie itself, it does slowly grow on you. It does slowly grow on you as you're introduced to more characters. It's like to me, I think the length is just what kind of like doesn't do it for me. I think it just drags at times,
Mhm.
just because there's so much nothing that happens.
Yeah.
Like, and
Well, it's very
it's
much
not the
like
dialogue that drives it. It's there's not really anything specifically driving it or like anything
yeah.
specifically except for I know the dance happens at the end. So am I watching it for the dance or like what am I like? I'm not sure what I'm watching it for. And like
Yeah.
I actually liked watching Kip's transformation. How he's like kind of a pushover,
Yeah.
and then like at the end he ends up leaving and like changing
Mhm.
his image and everything, with his girlfriend LaFonda,
Yeah.
and he he moves to Detroit with her.
Mhm.
So like he ends like his arc is huge.
I mean, Napoleon does really have a big change too because
He
he kind
does
of becomes
too.
more confident.
He does. He does, and he ends up like having friends, which I don't know if he. It doesn't seem like he really has any friends at the beginning of the movie,
No, not
and
really.
then towards the end, he has two friends, one of whom is possibly a future love interest or not love
Mhm.
or like a good friend. Uncle Rico just is it kind of just he ends up kind of declining a little bit. Like you kind of root for him, and you kind of root for Uncle Rico, and you kind of want him to like get his head out of the sand. But
Mhm.
like it doesn't seem like any of his ideas work. Like he like
No.
because like at the beginning it seemed like for the Tupperware he throws in the plastic sailboat
Yeah.
and we never see him do that ever again and
No.
like the customer ends up wanting to buy the Tupperware because he wants the sailboat.
Right.
But when he's introducing it to other people, he doesn't have a sailboat with him. So was that his sailboat that he just like gave to the guy, or
It probably was. He
it
just
probably was?
just selling stuff out of his own van, his own collection.
Yeah, he probably just wanted it, and that's probably whatever's left. So he probably said, "I need to make a sale. I need to make money, so I'm doing this. So I'll just
Hmm.
throw in the sailboat, even though this sailboat probably cost him, way more than whatever he just made on it. But
Hmm.
he needed to make money so that he could like either prove it to himself or prove it to Napoleon or whoever that he could
I
actually
think.
like do it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I think he wanted to try to win back his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and she does end up returning to him after he like gets beat up by Rex. And he's kind of like
is that his
dejected and
girlfriend or ex-wife?
yeah, I think that's supposed to be his wife or his girlfriend or whatever.
Oh, I thought it
And
was just like some girl who like comes down the road and she sees what he's doing and she's curious.
No, I think that was actually supposed to be his wife, like returning. Like maybe she heard that he got like beat up and like was kind of like, living now. Like he kind of got a little taste of like humble pie a little bit, and was like just he couldn't throw anymore. Like that was his throwing arm, so he couldn't really throw footballs anymore.
Mm.
And then she kind of like goes back. I guess feels bad for him, wants to like go back to him. So
Okay, well, I mean, he has the shift when Napoleon puts on the fake time machine thing that he buys from wherever he bought it from.
yeah,
He buys this like contraption that like fries his brain and like his nuts or something. And he calls it a time machine. Kip's like, oh, it's a time machine, and like John and like Napoleon Dynamite tries on, and like you see that it's set to 1982, which is the year of whatever football game that he's talking about that supposedly ruined his life.
yeah,
And he puts the thing on, and like it electrocutes him basically.
yeah,
And he makes him turn it off, and he like throws it, and like Napoleon's like, it doesn't work, nothing happened, it didn't work.
yeah,
And then like you see Uncle Rico in the back, and he's like, yeah, I know it doesn't work.
yeah. I could have told you that.
Yeah. So but like he made the purchase, so it's almost
Oh
like
yeah.
that. It's almost like that's like his awakening, kind of, but not really. I don't or at least he starts to like, maybe that's where he like starts to come to grips with things.
Well, I think also when
He still
Napoleon,
tries to
like,
throw the football on the camera, but it seems
I
like he's just doing it to get it out.
I think when Napoleon too, like Napoleon throws the tomatoes at his van when he like pisses off like the one girl that Napoleon's like hanging out with. I forget her name now.
Deb.
Yeah, Deb. He like tries to sell her the friggin' like the breast
Oh my
enhancing
god, yeah, I forgot
drugs,
that's
right?
his
And then
other
like
thing. Is
she
his,
gets
like,
all mad,
boss thing.
and then like so like he kind of like tackles Napoleon and is like, you're gonna clean my van, like he's like kind of like trying to like be like this like big tough guy, and then Napoleon just like kind of like elbows him and runs away. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of like really showed that like he was like washed up, like he can't even chase down his nephew who's like a teenager, like.
Yeah. And grandma we don't really know if she has an arc. Grandma does crazy things. She goes to the hospital for him, and she probably went right back to doing it the next day because she's a tough old lady.
Yeah.
Deb is interesting because she's she's a little unsure of herself, but she's like she has a lot of skills, and she's really smart.
Yeah.
Like she might be a little goofy and a little awkward, but she's like a really smart cookie.
Mm-hmm. And then Pedro, of course,
Pedro's pretty
has
awesome.
a great arc where he kind of comes in as like this exchange. Well, not I guess he's not an exchange student.
He's like the new kid.
He's the new kid, and he's in a predominantly white town because it's friggin' rural Idaho, and he's like from Mexico. So, and he kind of like comes out of his shell and ends up becoming the class president, which is pretty, the new kid who's doesn't really know anybody at the school just because, Napoleon like really helped him, and really got out there and
Deb
had
helps
people
too because she gives them
she
gives them the beads to just give to everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and his cousin with the lowrider when they're like the one bully is like beating up the kid and trying to steal his bike.
His cousin with the lowrider, and he was like one of the dudes he was like one of the Mexican twins on Breaking Bad, who's
Oh really?
Yeah. And like those guys, you do not want to mess with them. I forgot what I forgot what they call them in there, but they're like they're like something like they're the something bad is gonna happen to you, brothers. Basically,
Yeah.
Like whenever whenever they show up, they just murder people. But
one of my favorite scenes is when he the kid's getting his bike stolen by. Well, first he's like getting beat up in the hallway, so like Napoleon kind of goes up to him and is like, Pedro will offer you his protection or whatever, and then like the bully comes back and tries to steal the kid's bike, and like they just drive up in the lowrider and pull up, and the Pedro's cousin just shakes his head, and the guy like just runs away.
Yeah, I popped for that, and
Yeah.
and the lowrider says "vote for Pedro" on it too.
Yeah.
I also like when he shows up to to the girl that he asks out to the dance
Mm-hmm.
in the lowrider with the cousins, and it's the first time that we
Yeah.
even see the cousins, and
Yeah.
like we don't even know if they're really related to him or anything. He just like makes that assumption because they're the only other Mexican guys.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh no, this poor boy is gonna die.
Yeah.
He's gonna end up in a ditch somewhere, and it turns out that they actually are his cousins.
Yeah. And the dad is like, "What's that on my driveway? It's my ride."
Yeah.
They do the hydraulics.
Yeah, I pop for that too. Like I said, there's things where there's instances where I saw why it could be funny and like why people would love this movie, but I like it's just not anything I would really go out of my way for other than something like this. This actually came from it stemmed from a 9-minute long short called Palooka, actually, that was done in 2002.
And if you subscribe to our Patreon, you can see our reactions to it as we do our watch.
There you go. If you want to watch the watch along with us, head on over to patreon.com/whydoesthisexist and donate a little bit of coin, and we will give you a lot of bit of entertainment. You can watch that as well as many other watch-alongs that we have. Well, not many other. We have about 4 up there. We have about 4 up there now. We will have 5-ish when Palooka ends up coming up. And that doesn't just mean watch-alongs to shows or movies or shorts or things like that. We also have a little bit of excess banter that we chose not to put on the podcast last week. It was really just like testing stuff that we thought was funny and we threw up there. It's not offensive. It's not anything like that. Oh, this is not safe for TV, so we got to put it behind our Patreon and give it to the people who really love us. It's just something funny that we thought was actually like pretty golden, so we just threw it up as extra content for you wonderful people. But this was made on Paducah. Palooka. Paducah is a part of Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a band that used to be on this forum that we used to be on called Thrash Unlimited, which I miss. And I think their name was Executioner. I don't remember, but they were from Paducah, Kentucky, and it was like a guitar. It was like a guitar player, a bass player, and like a drummer. I can't remember if they had a second guitar player, but the guitar player and the bass player, they ended up actually like being in a relationship for a little while. Guy and a girl, just for anyone who's curious. So wouldn't you know who won the pony? But Palooka, yes, Palooka was it was interesting, and like the movie takes direct things out of Palooka and just kind of expands on them a little bit. Like the opening scene of Palooka is when he gets on the bus and he just like dangles the action figure out the window, and it just kind of like dances it gets dragged by the bus, which is kind of weird but funny in its own way.
And shot for shot remade in Napoleon Dynamite.
Pretty much.
I think almost identical.
I think the only difference is that there's more kids on the bus.
Yeah, Napoleon Dynamite, it's a full bus, and in Palooka, it's just 2 kids, I think, sitting at the back that kind of talk to him. And I think in Palooka, John Heater plays, instead of Napoleon Dynamite, his name is Seth, but he's basically the same exact character.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not Napoleon. He's actually called Seth, I believe. But again, it's almost the same exact character. Like, some of the lines are slightly different, but a lot of you could very much see that Palooka was made into Napoleon Dynamite. Like, Napoleon Dynamite is just a longer version of that movie.
Right, and he there is no Deb in that, but there are 2 Spanish kids in it, and and like they both end up like one of them is named Pedro, and I forget what the other guy's name is, but they both have like have instances that happen to Pedro in the movie, like getting getting too hot and then shaving his head, and they have to get a wig for him.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you know, that happens to like the other Spanish kid, but Pedro just explains everything to him, and both of those characters kind of became an amalgam for the Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's only like a handful of differences in there. The plot is just basically they need to help this other kid. So they go to like they go to like a grocery store, and and Napoleon tries to buy a scratch off, or
Mm-hmm.
Seth tries to buy a scratch off, but the guy behind the counter clearly sees that he's not old enough, so he like turns him down because they don't have money. That's why they're buying the lotto ticket.
Yeah.
And then the kid who they need to help, because he's the only kid who has a mustache. He goes in and he buys the lotto ticket, no problem. And then they end up getting like, $10 or $30 or whatever it is. They go down to the store. They end up buying a wig. And I think one of
Yeah.
the kids says Palooka, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Actually, what does Palooka mean anything?
I don't know. Palooka meeting right there.
Okay.
Wig.
Oh,
Look.
all right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now I know.
No, there you go. And knowing is half the battle.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Our good friends G.I. Joe. Actually, I don't know. Maybe they'll be our friends. In these uncertain times, who knows what side G.I. Joe is really on? Oh, God. And also, what has G.I. Joe been tweeting? I have a feeling there's things that G.I. Joe once said that are no longer kosher in today's world.
Probably.
But I actually liked Palooka. I thought that it was good. I think like time wise that like it did all that it needed to do, and it was good. But I like that it's the interesting thing, which I mean I guess this just happens in in just independent films or shorts or something, that they're in black and white. This was also shot in black and white, and this makes a lot of sense to what you said before about Napoleon Dynamite essentially being the Clerks of its generation.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
clearly an influence in
Especially
Palooka.
in Palooka.
In Palooka,
Yeah,
the
you could
influence
really
is
see.
very obvious.
There's like a one shot when they're standing outside the convenience store or gas station, whatever it is, and it's like this wide angle shot, and they're all standing up against the wall, and it's like very clearly like this is Jay and Silent Bob standing in front of the convenience store in Clerks, almost exact same kind of like shot and framing, So I think, and the store that they go into, the gas station, very much looks like the Quick Stop in Clerks. Like it looks almost identical. Like it's just that kind of like early 2000s, 90s kind of convenience store with the cigarette thing like right above like the counter and stuff like that. And it's just they're clearly influenced by Clerks. I would say it's got to be intentional too. I don't think they did that by mistake. I'm pretty sure it was, they were going for that.
Mm. And I think they succeeded, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
it ended up getting picked up to do a full movie, and they did a bunch of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But the success ended up leading to an animated movie, not an animated movie, an animated show too.
Right.
Which
Which again, mirroring Clerks.
yes. But I think for the show, I saw a couple of names in there. I watched it this morning, actually, just one episode. There's only one season. I think there's like 8 episodes or something like that. I thought the show was actually decent, and I saw a lot of familiar names. I'm not sure if they had gotten all of the cast to reprise their roles, but they got most of them actually to do the voices, which I thought was cool and a nice touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but overall, it wasn't a bad show. I like the show and Palooka better than the movie itself, simply because I think they do enough of what they need to do within the time frames, and
Yeah.
there's no fat there, or there's not as much fat. I think the concept of the cartoon episode that I watched is a little silly.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's a cartoon.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you look at Clerks, the animated series, is the same thing. It was very much silly situations that happen that, like, you know, wouldn't work in a live action film like Clerks. So they kind of like took it and made it sillier because it was a cartoon. So and it works for the cartoon. So it's like a similar situation there.
Yeah, but not a bad cartoon. Um, the animation was actually pretty good, and they got them pretty close. I don't know who did it, but you can watch it on Hulu actually.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm trying to find the animated series here. Oh, okay. Okay, it was done in association with 20th Century Fox.
Hmm.
Oh, all right. There's only 6 episodes, but I thought I saw 8. All right, maybe I'm wrong. Sue me. Don't sue me. I have no money. But yeah, the director Jared Hess and his co-screenwriter wife Jerusha. I didn't know that Jerusha was a real name. I thought that I love the show Superstore, and I like Jerusha is the wife of Glenn, the store manager at the beginning, who kind of like talks himself out of his job at one point, and he ends up just being a regular like assistant manager or an employee.
Hmm.
Um, I thought Jerusha was a made up name that they used on the show.
I guess it must be a real name.
I guess it's a real name in like Middle America. Who knew? But yeah, they got most of the original actors. What Napoleon Dynamite the game? Napoleon Dynamite Festival. What is this? Are there other things that happen because of this?
I guess so.
Oh Jesus Christ! There was a
How
video
could there have
game.
possibly
How
been
could there's a PSP video game for this?
there are 30 mini games while the DS version has 25 mini games? Huh.
What do you do? Do you just
There's no. It looks like Wikipedia has really no description of what the game is. It just looks
I
like,
mean, the less
besides
the
being
better.
mini games. I mean, see, this is something. A video game based on Napoleon Dynamite is something I would expect from like the early '90s when they were making video games based on anything. Like they had like, uh, what was it? They had a Wayne's World video game. It's like, how do you make an action platformer based on Wayne's World? Well, and it was terrible. So there
Or
you go.
or ET, which is this got a 7 actually, which
It
on
was
the
good.
DS.
Wow.
Yeah, not terrible honestly. Let me see, like they really nailed the license, although the presentation is a bit bland. The minigames are generally well done and capture the spirit of the film perfectly. This isn't the best minigame collection on the DS, but it's better than most. Diehard fans of the film will probably enjoy this, and gamers looking for some enjoyable, bite-sized gaming might be surprised by what they find here. This is a 2007 article on IGN by Chris Adams. I don't know who he is, but we're giving you credit.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I guess this game wasn't that bad, but it's kind of weird. All right. In the town of, I guess the town of Preston, Idaho,
It's just where it takes
which is
place.
where it was takes place and I guess filmed. Well, or they have a Napoleon Dynamite Day there,
Huh.
or like the Napoleon Dynamite Festival. They held it for several years, and they have like themes to the game, like a tetherball tournament or a tater tot eating contest or something like that.
Moon
All
boot
right,
dance impersonation lookalike contest for bus.
that's
So it's
it's kind of like a
it's a
blob
festival.
fest. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's something to do in Idaho, which now
What
gives
else is
me.
there to do in
I
Idaho?
mean, I was gonna say now it gives me one more thing, like just one more thing out of 0 things that I now know exist in Idaho. So if I'm ever gonna go to Preston, Idaho,
Well, I know they have potatoes. I mean,
I guess.
it's Idaho. They have potatoes.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I know about in Idaho.
It looks like they got most people. on the like if not the full cast from the movie,
Hmm.
which is good. It helps.
Yeah.
But it is, it was only going to run for as many episodes as it did. One
Hmm.
season, I think, was plenty. It wasn't bad.
I think it came out a little too late in the game. Like, it came out 8 years after the movie
Yeah,
was
that's
out.
the thing with some of these things. When you're trying to do
Yeah.
a sequel thing or like you need to really like capitalize while the iron's hot because
Yeah.
otherwise if it fades away, it doesn't make any sense to do it. Like you can't like now the thing is like now the thing is doing sequels like 30 years later or like
Right.
from a movie which makes zero sense because the people who
Well, it
you're
makes sense
like
from a financial
it,
perspective.
I mean, but it's very lazy and it's
It is
like
lazy. No, it absolutely is. And I mean, that's what kind of Hollywood is degenerated into. Like, there's really no original movies anymore. It's either a sequel, a remake, a reboot, or something like based on like some other kind of media, like a comic book or a book or something or a video game. There really isn't that many original movies in Hollywood anymore, unfortunately.
no, there's not. But I mean, it's also they're now going into they're now taking that idea and they're going with TV show sequels years
Oh yeah,
later,
yeah.
which I think the TV I think the TV I think if you're going to do a sequel to 30 years later, I think the format is better off as a series
Hmm.
because you can do a lot more with that world. You're not restricted to a time frame. You're not gonna be dealing with as many heads as you would, but you're still gonna be dealing with plenty of them.
Yeah.
So
I think
I
the
think
problem
there's a
is
little bit more wiggle room with a TV show,
I,
but
I
I
think the
still think
problem
that
is
a
though,
sequel like many years later is just a dumb idea.
when they try to make a sequel to like like they did the Roseanne reboot, and I think they did Murphy Brown and stuff like that, and Will and Grace. The problem is that they try to shoehorn too much topical humor in, like, and make it like oh, like Roseanne, she's like a Trump supporter, like kind of like it's like it it's really, I think, disingenuous. You could really see that all it is a cash grab, and they're just trying to like capitalize on something that was successful 20 or 30 years ago. And again, the nostalgia craze. They're trying to, but it's like done to death now. Like it's everything has like a reboot or like a remake or something like that. It's like
Right, and
at this point we
like
don't
to
want to
me
see it anymore.
to
Go
me that's
away.
the thing
Like,
that worries me is that you have too many things that like when you try to throw in the topical humor, you try to do in the topical things. Like one, I don't understand why you need to do that. Two,
hmm
like even like if it's a live action show, I guess I could see the I could see why more than I could for a non live action show or something that takes place in its own universe, which some of them do, some of them don't.
hmm
But I just don't see the need for it. And the other thing is, it's gonna like, what kind of topical humor are you gonna use? Like, it's
right.
either like it's gonna come off as like lazy or just like you're gonna alienate your fans because like oh of course like you said with the Roseanne reboot that Roseanne was a Trump supporter. I didn't watch Roseanne. I didn't watch the Roseanne reboot.
hmm
I don't really know. I appreciate everybody for what they do. I it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Um, like of course she would be. Of course they wrote it that way. Of course if they were gonna put it in modern
Right.
times that she would be like a pro Trumper and whatever. But like what kind of jokes are you gonna do? I didn't watch it, so I assume because Hollywood is very liberal that they painted her as very stupid, very ignorant, and very whatever. Like when it came to Trump things, and like just very stereotypical of
Well,
what
apparently
you imagine
before
would be. I mean,
she like
I think
said those things and got canceled.
she
Uh,
was like a Trump supporter anyway, which I don't care what your political
well,
affiliation is.
they were trying to, I think, paint like because obviously Roseanne had a lot to do with actual like the actual writing. Like I'm pretty sure she wrote a lot. She was like trying to create it herself. So like
Yeah,
they were
this
kind
was
of
her
trying to
thing.
portray her as like, yes, they were like she was a Trump supporter, but like she voted for Trump. She wasn't like an asshole. She voted for Trump because she thought he would like help, middle America kind of thing.
Which I think most people did. I think that's why most people
Yeah,
did vote for him the first time, was because they thought he was like, they thought he like legitimately wanted to do all these things, and that
yeah,
he really cared about the little guy, and that he was really looking out for,
hmm,
for people who ended up getting screwed over during the financial crisis and lost their like everything's.
yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people really believed in that message, and they
yeah,
believed that that he meant every word that he said, and it turned out he was just another politician. He was just
yeah.
another guy trying to get your vote, and of course he was going to do what he did, and it didn't, and like the little person didn't really matter because he only wanted to protect the rich, and
Hmm.
it was. He ended up just being more like it ended up just being hooray, we got a new boss. And it was like, meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, as you were.
Yeah. So I don't. It's just. I think in general, I think the whole remake thing is just it's really done to death. I think a couple of things that it works maybe like there's the Sopranos prequel movie coming out soon. I'm actually looking forward to that. I think it looks really good.
I am
It's an
too.
interesting thing. I'm like, it's cool that they're doing it, kind of. But
I don't mind.
Sopranos
I
isn't
don't
like,
mind prequel things.
yeah, because
Prequel
this is
things, you have a lot more to
they're
play
telling a
with.
different story. It's
Right.
not just like the same characters, but now 20 years later.
Right.
It's
It's the same
they're
characters like 30 years before the original show. Like you can play with that, and it's like I'll give you a better pass. I'll give you a pass on it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to say, oh, well, I hope they don't do this. I hope they don't do that, because I now know that it has to take place years before everything happens. So you're going to try to keep it like historically accurate. You're not going to try to shoehorn, something in there.
yeah,
Maybe you could like maybe you could work in a current
yeah, and
jab somehow through like a clever joke writing, but then it's a clever joke, so it's okay.
hmm, hmm,
But I think I think the Sopranos thing will be good. I like prequel
yeah,
stuff, sequel stuff. I'm not crazy about. Like I like Bill and Ted. I loved Bill and Ted 1 and 2. I did
hmm,
not see the reason for Bill and Ted 3. I have yet to watch Bill and Ted 3.
yeah,
I like it's just not my thing. And like we were watching the when we were watching the Super Bowl the other day, there was the commercial. There was the Wayne's World commercial,
yeah,
which Mike Myers and Dana Carvey really haven't. They've aged pretty gracefully, so
yeah,
they look very similar, and they pop out their kids, not their real kids. Obviously, I don't think Mike Myers has any children. He lives a very private life. Dana
hmm,
Carvey has two sons that do stand up as well. Um, and then they have Cardi B, which in my opinion ruined the commercial because it should have been like a current rock person,
yeah.
but okay, they threw in Cardi B.
Well, it's an
Whatever.
advertisement. They want whoever's going to make them money,
Right.
which
Which
she's popular.
yeah,
So
which
there you
ties
go.
into which ties more into more closely into like the plot of Wayne's World 1, but that's
Right.
different. um, and one of the people that were at the small socially distanced gathering, I have to put that in there. Um, that that we were with was like, hey, maybe I wouldn't mind a Wayne's World 3 where they could do something like this where it's just their kids, and they could just keep basically the same plot of the first one, but just kind of update and have them pass the torch to their kids. Where
Yeah.
and like I was like, I don't know, like I don't want all these like cultural and topical references and all these like cultural like current jokes, or like
Hmm.
anything like lazy or stupid, like, oh, Wayne and Garth don't know how to use a smartphone, haha, or
Yeah.
oh, they've learned about social media, now they're gonna make a mistake and like people are gonna go crazy. like i I hope they don't do that, but if they were going to do that, I could see something like that where their kids basically start a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and it blows up, and they get overtaken by like Maker Studios or something like that, or like some big like social media marketing machine, and then it's the same plot as Wayne's World 1. But not now that I've written everything. This is now here for historical record, so that anybody in Hollywood that takes my idea, I will sue you. And my mother works at the biggest law firm in Brooklyn, and they specialize in corporate law. So they will take. I will come after you. The gold around your waist will be mine. Also, speaking of law firms at my mom's place, I have to issue an apology. Now I'm caught between Dusty and not Dusty. I have to issue an apology to in the very first episode. We we aired some brief grievances about our Zamboni days and how they came to a crashing halt by the degenerate lawyers of the Zamboni Corporation.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up we said some words that all lawyers are terrible or all lawyers are evil or something along those lines. I want to clarify something. My mother's bosses, Larry and Steve, are very nice guys. They are the exception to the rule that all lawyers must be evil. They are the only two lawyers that will get into heaven when they die, and there will be a very nice party for them. And all the angels will get very jealous, and all the priests will get extremely jealous. Because Larry and Steve are nice guys, and they happen to be lawyers. I'm not saying this because my mother told me to. My mother got very upset, but I also... but I have also met Larry and Steve, and they are stand-up guys, and they're constantly trying to make sure that my mom's okay. Like, if there's ever, if they've helped her out along the way. I'm not going to get into details, but Larry and Steve are stand-up guys. All other lawyers are pure evil, and they will burn in a fiery, fiery death. Okay, now that lawyers are going to hell... we may need to call either Steve or Larry or Stephen P. New.
Oh, God.
Lawsuits. If you are a lawyer that wants to help a guy in need, head on over to our Patreon and fund our corporate lawsuit. But yes, I don't have much else to say about Napoleon Dynamite or lawyers, but I'm just a little bit nervous about when they reboot shows or movies or they try to do like sequels many, many years later, because there are many problems and a lot of it is just a lazy cash cow and it just doesn't work. I think the exception to that is the Clerk stuff because Kevin Smith is the one running the show completely. And
well, and I think he was kind of lampooning the whole like remake.
Well,
thing
that too. Like when he does it, it's a purpose. Like there's a purpose to it. Like he's obviously not doing it as a cash cow. Yes, it will make money, but he's doing it to make fun of other things, or he's doing it to like point out that this is a stupid craze that Hollywood is doing, and we're doing it, but it's going to be very meta, and we're going to like make fun of it. Or like the Clerks sequel was the 10th anniversary, and he was like, "I'm going to do this. I want them to, I did this 10 years ago. I'm proud of it. I was proud of it then. I'm proud of it now." I'm going to make the sequel, and it's basically a very similar movie, but it's actually really great. It's actually really funny on its own, and it's really great.
Yeah.
But that's an exception. I was worried for the Animaniacs reboot. It's not bad.
It's not too bad. Yeah.
There's a little bit of what we talked about in there. Like there's a couple of there's a couple of shorts where like there's one in the first episode where like Pinky and the Brain end up going viral on like a YouTube channel or something like that, or social media, and they try to take over the world that way. But like there's thought put into it, there's care. Like yes, there are certain yes, there are some political jokes where they're like, where they poke fun at Trump, but like Animaniacs did this anyway. And also like, Trump in his own right he's just comedy gold by himself because what he does is just endlessly stupid. So he's just begging to be made fun of. And I thought that they did it in a really funny way. Like there's an episode where they go to where they're like doing an Olympics thing or something like that, and like they go, or like it's like a parody of like Homer's Odyssey, and like they go to they get like they wind up on this island and there's a Cyclops that's obviously like a big Trump baby thing. It just looks like a giant baby that's like that
Yeah, I
like
think I
looks
saw
like
that
Trump,
episode.
and
Yeah,
it's funny.
yeah,
Like, but I was worried about that for Animaniacs at first because I was like, oh no, like are they gonna like they didn't get the original writers. I think it was just Roger Rougeau, and the and all the voice actors, and I was a little worried. And of course, Steven Spielberg is like executive producing it or like doing whatever he has. He's involved somehow. So like the main members of the old band are back together, but the backing orchestra has changed. I guess is the nice way to put it, or the best way to put it. And I was a little bit worried about it at first. I didn't know if it was. I was hoping that it was. I was like, is it still gonna be funny? Are they gonna like? Is the new writing staff gonna like? Are they gonna be good writers or are they gonna be lazy? Like, how is this gonna go? And I haven't finished it. I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but it's. I think they did. I think they did okay with this. Like the only things that I have to say is they they don't have they only have the Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. They don't have any of the other supporting
Aunt Slappy
characters. Yeah, they don't have them in there. There's no Good Pigeons. There's no Rita and Runt, or there's no not Elmira. She's Tiny Toons, but they're rebooting that too.
Oh, she was in.
She was like
made
loosely.
animated
She had the Pinky Elmira and the Brain episode, which was funny.
Yeah.
Mindy and Buttons. That's the one I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Similar, and I think I think the same voice actress voiced Mindy as well as Elmira.
Yes, I believe so.
I think she did. We just didn't get any of those extra ones, and like there's certain episodes where like the skits really drag. Like there's like they'll be going for like 15 to 20 minutes, and it's like this should have been like a 7 or 8 minute cartoon. Like you're kind of like drawing it out. But other than that, I think it's fine, and I'm actually really like glad that they that they did it the way that they did.
Yeah. I mean, it's Animaniacs now. It's like a perfect like they really, especially the way they kind of make fun of again like reboots in the beginning and stuff, and how
there's a lot of meta jokes in there, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Like they kept the spirit.
Yes.
Which was what I was worried about. I was worried that they weren't going to keep the spirit and that it was going to be Animaniacs in name only, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And like the actors, they haven't skipped a beat. They can still pull off the voices, and it's really remarkable what they do.
Yeah.
All right, but I don't have anything else to add. Do you have anything else to add, sir? Do we have any closing statements?
Well, I will say that I like Napoleon Dynamite, and anybody who's listening, you should go watch it. It's a funny movie.
Okay, then. I still think it's just I still would not go out of my way to watch it. I see why it would be funny. There's certain parts where I'll chuckle a little bit or I'll pop a little bit, and you probably will too. I would say it's worth checking out if you haven't checked it out. And definitely watch, I think it would help if you watch Palooka first.
Yeah.
And then watch Napoleon Dynamite, and then watch the cartoon, because then you kind of like get the whole evolution of what it's become. There's been talks, there's a possibility of a sequel that like, there's just been rumors, and like, it was reported that there wasn't a discussion late last year. John Heater said that he would like to do it, but he'd like to take a darker take on the characters. Which would be interesting.
Could be.
Don't know. But if they ever do a sequel, maybe I'll check it out, maybe I won't. But if I get dragged into a movie theater to watch it, then I guess I won't have a choice. Or if it's going to be on something, then maybe I'll check it out. But I think if you want to check it out, you should absolutely, try to watch it in order if you can. You can find Palooka on YouTube, and there's like probably a bunch of other websites too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys once again so much. We appreciate everything that you do for us, and we will continue to do whatever it is that we do for you. If you're still listening, then that means we're doing something good, or you're just showing everybody, look at these jackasses. I can't believe that they're doing this.
Thanks for listening.
Either way, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to go on YouTube, find us. Why Does This Exist? And like, comment, and subscribe to our channels, because that way it will boost the algorithm and it'll make more people find us. And if you're disliking us, more people will still find us, and they'll hate us too. And I don't care. If you wanna let us know about something weird that you want us to talk about, it doesn't have to be a movie. It can be anything strange that is in the works, or there's evidence that it would have existed, but it got canceled or whatever, or if it just is a weird thing that just came out, 40 years ago, that's like a toy or a movie or something strange. I don't know. Maybe it's your mother's toaster oven. I don't know. I'm just obviously I'm staring at things in the house. It's not my mother's toaster oven, but it's a toaster oven. You can send us a tip at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. And you can check us out at on Podbean, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts is what the kids are calling it now. Spotify. I think we're on TuneIn. We're on iHeartRadio. And we're also on Google Podcasts. No, we're not yet on Pandora. We will be soon.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet,
soon.
But soon to be Pandora.
Coming soon to Pandora.
Oh, boy. And that's it. You can check us out. And also, Why Does This Exist? Podcast.podbean.com. That's where you find us. And if you want to help, us, pay our bills a little bit and help keep the channel going, and you can check out some of our exclusive watch-alongs, where it's content specifically for you because we love you, such as Palooka. Patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. Thank you guys so much. I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And remember, question everything.
Good night,
especially
everyone.
That nature boy Ric Flair.